so last week we talked about demand. Demand is a little bit easier to understand because you are a consumer. Supply is a little trickier. Okay, so if you have questions along the way, please make sure you ask them. This is a pretty big chapter, supply and demand. We have many more things to go, so I want to make sure you understand it along the way. Now, when you're talking about supply, just like demand, you have to have the willingness and ability. But on the supply side, it's the willingness and ability of sellers to produce an offer to sell different quantities of good at different prices. So you're looking at it from the store owner's point of view, like you are the one that owns the product and are selling it to others. So, you know, how much are you willing to sell at $1 or $2 or $3? So, you know, at different prices, what are you willing and able to sell? You know him?
Yes.
Donald Dunbar is willing to rebuild cars and sell them, but he doesn't know how to work on cars. So he has the willingness, but not the ability. Okay, so you have to have those two things in order to be, you know, a producer.
But in the notes, use Kaylin Robb.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. I know her too.
Yeah. I usually use people's names. The notes might say a different name than the one I have up here.
Interesting.
Is everybody with me? Shh. Who said hold on? Okay. The law of supply, this shouldn't seem as unfamiliar to you as maybe demand because it's sort of the same premise. So the law of supply, give you a little example. Suppose you're a supplier of TV sets and the price rises from $300 to $400. Well, if you are the store owner, you want to sell your product at the higher price, correct? If you're the consumer, you want to buy it at a lower price. But if you're the one selling it, you want to sell it at the highest price you possibly can. So then, this is the relationship of supply. If price goes up, quantity supplied goes up. If price goes down, quantity supplied goes down. If you remember with demand, what kind of relationship was it? Opposite, inverse relationship. In this case, it's a direct relationship. They both go in the same direction. When one goes up, so does the other. Once again, you need to remember that there's a difference between supply and quantity supply. Supply is the willingness and ability, etc. You know, you already saw that on the first slide. I don't need to go over that all over again. And quantity supplied is the number of units you will produce and sell at a certain price. Okay, where supply is, you know, how much will you sell at this price and this price and this price. Quantity supplied is you take a price and that's how many units will you sell at this price. So say you sold burgers at $2 each, you're willing to produce and sell 5 burgers. Okay, so that would be the quantity supplied at that price. Okay, just like demand, you have a supply schedule which tells you at each price how much you're willing to sell. And you see as the price goes up, the quantity supplied goes up because there's a direct relationship. So $1 you'll sell 10, at $2 you'll sell 20, at 3, 30, and 4 you'll sell $40. I'm going to draw on there so you turn it so that it shows me drawing. Okay, and just like demand, we are going to chart this, okay? Price is always here. So you're going to put the price $1, $2, $3, and $4. And then you're going to put the quantity supplied, 10, 20, 30, 40. And then graph it. And draw the line. Very good at freehanding. You can see the difference though between this line and demand. What's so funny? Luke, do you have a her line or mine? You can see this is a supply curve because as price goes up, quantity goes up. It's got a different slope than demand. Remember, demand was downward sloping because it had an inverse relationship. So you know that when you see a curve like this, it's supply. How are we doing time-wise?
Almost 8 minutes.
All right, a couple more. Okay. Now with demand, or with, I'm sorry, with supply, you have a different kind of a curve that you don't have with demand. And that is called a vertical supply curve. Okay? And this is a curve of goods you can buy that are no longer being produced. So, if you wanted to buy a 65 Mustang, could you?
Yeah.
Yes. But are they still making 65 Mustangs? No, they're not. So you have this supply curve that's vertical of goods that are out there that you can buy, but they no longer make new ones. So the supply curve doesn't change. Whatever is in supply, that's all there is. Okay? Where in demand you don't have this kind of a curve. Do you understand what I'm talking about, Hunter? Yeah? Because it looked like you were playing with your pencil. Okay. So, another way of looking at a vertical supply curve is, say you're going to a Pistons game or a Tigers game or a concert. Okay? Once the tickets are sold out, they're sold out. It doesn't matter if you're willing to pay $10,000 for it. There are no more tickets. So there is a finite supply of these things. Okay, so once they're gone, they're gone. They're not producing anymore. So that is why the supply curve is vertical.
Why would you spend $10,000 on a ticket? You could
I don't know. You probably wouldn't.
you could buy so much stuff with that much money.
Obviously,
You
if
could
somebody
buy
would pay
Pistons.
$10,000 for a ticket, they have money.
You could buy the Tigers or whatever.
I don't know. You could buy the Tigers for $10,000.
You could buy a tiger. It's better.
All right.
My tax.
The final thing we're going to talk about is a market supply curve. Now, just like with demand, you have the individual supply curves, but in this case, it'd be an individual business. So you have Microsoft. They are a firm that supplies computers, correct?
Yep.
So they would have their own supply curve. Bless you. Now, if you wanted a market supply curve, you would take all the computer companies, Microsoft, Dell, Apple, HP, etc., and they make up the computer market. And they would all have their own supply curves. You know, Microsoft, Dell has its own, Apple has its own. And to get the market supply curve, you would add them all together. Just like in demand, to get a market supply curve, you would add all the business supply curves together. Okay, that's the end of this